In today's video, we're diving into one of the most important chapters in American history, how a series of colonial protests transformed into a full-blown revolution, ultimately leading to the birth of the United States. From the First Continental Congress to the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War itself, we'll explore how a diverse and divided group of colonies moved from loyalty to rebellion. Let's get started. In the spring of 1774, British Parliament passed a series of punitive laws known in the colonies as the Intolerable Acts. These laws were designed to punish Massachusetts for the Boston Tea Party and to tighten British control, but they had the opposite effect. Instead, they united the colonies in shared outrage. By September 1774, 12 of the 13 colonies, Georgia being the lone holdout, sent delegates to Philadelphia for what became known as the First Continental Congress. The delegates took bold steps. They adopted the Suffolk Resolves, which demanded the immediate repeal of the Intolerable Acts, urged military preparations, and called for a boycott of British goods. They also created the Continental Association, a network of local committees that would enforce these economic sanctions. Despite these assertive measures, the delegates still held out hope for reconciliation. They narrowly rejected a motion to unite the colonies in a cohesive union and passed the Declaration and Resolves, which notably affirmed loyalty to King George III and recognized his royal authority. At this moment, the goal was still to restore the relationship with Britain, not sever it. King George III, however, had no interest in reconciliation. He dismissed the Congress's petitions and declared that Massachusetts was in a state of open rebellion. British troops were ordered to suppress dissent. On the night of April 18, 1775, 700 British troops marched from Boston to Concord, Massachusetts, with secret orders to seize and destroy colonial weapons. But colonial spies, including the Sons of Liberty, learned of the plan. That night, Paul Revere and other riders galloped through the countryside warning of the British advance. At dawn on April 19th, British troops encountered 70 Minutemen on the village green of Lexington. Suddenly, a shot rang out. No one knows exactly who fired it, but it became immortalized as the shot heard round the world. The British then advanced to Concord and were ambushed all along the route back to Boston. By the time they returned, 73 were dead and about 200 more were wounded or missing. The American Revolution had begun. Just 2 months later, on June 17, 1775, colonial forces and British troops clashed in the Battle of Bunker Hill near Boston. Though the British technically won by taking the hill, the Americans inflicted over 1,000 British casualties, proving that this little colonial militia could stand against the professional British Army. After the battles of Lexington and Concord, delegates reconvened in Philadelphia in May of 1775 for the Second Continental Congress. This time, the tone was quite different. New England delegates pushed for independence while others still hoped for peace. The Congress took significant steps. They issued the Declaration of the Causes and Necessity for Taking Up Arms, calling for all colonies to provide troops, and George Washington was appointed commander-in-chief of the new colonial army. Still, by July 1775, many delegates held out hope for reconciliation. They sent the Olive Branch petition to King George III, pledging loyalty and asking for peace. The king rejected it outright and responded with the Prohibitory Act, officially declaring the colonies in rebellion. Over the following months, with skirmishes continuing and Thomas Paine's common sense stirring public sentiment, the momentum shifted toward independence. Eventually, the Congress appointed a committee to draft a formal declaration. The task largely fell to Thomas Jefferson, who drew heavily on John Locke's ideas of natural rights and the social contract. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted, officially severing ties with Great Britain and marking the birth of the United States. What followed was an 8 year struggle, lasting from 1775 to 1783. It was a war of attrition, strategy, and shifting alliances. By the end of 1777, the British had captured New York City and Philadelphia, and Washington's troops endured a brutal winter at Valley Forge. Despite these hardships, American resolve remained strong. A turning point came with the Battle of Saratoga in 1777. British General John Burgoyne surrendered his entire army to American forces. This victory convinced France that the Americans could win, and in 1778, France entered into a formal military alliance with the United States. French support, naval, financial, and military, would prove crucial in ultimately securing independence. The population of the 13 colonies in 1775 was about 2.6 million. Among them, roughly 40% were patriots, primarily from New England and Virginia, fully committed to the cause of independence. About 25% were loyalists who supported the British. These individuals tended to be wealthy, government officials, or British merchants. Some loyalists also had backing from Native American tribes. After the war, around 70,000 loyalists ended up fleeing to Canada. Women played essential roles, especially on the home front. They ran farms and businesses, organized boycotts, and supplied troops with food and clothing. Native Americans mostly supported the British, believing a British victory would be more likely to protect their lands from colonial expansion. After the war, however, they were excluded from peace talks and often faced violent retribution from American settlers. About 9,000 Black Americans, both free and enslaved, fought for the Patriot cause, making up around 5% of the total American forces. They served on average 8 times longer than white soldiers. While some earned their freedom, many others remained enslaved after the war ended. From the First Continental Congress's appeals for peace to the ringing words of the Declaration of Independence, the American colonies went through a rapid and dramatic transformation. What began as protest against unfair taxation evolved into an armed struggle for liberty. The Revolutionary War tested the resolve, courage, and unity of a diverse group of people who, despite internal divisions and uncertain odds, fought to create a new nation. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.